Hi, my name is Khleif, and I'm the host of the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. And every week I interview multifamily rock stars, and we talk about how they've built incredible wealth for themselves and their families through multifamily properties. So hit the like and subscribe buttons to get notified every Monday when a new episode comes out. Let's get to it. Hi, my name is Khleif, and I'm the host of the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. And every week I interview multifamily rock stars, and we talk about how they've built incredible wealth for themselves and their families through multifamily properties. So hit the like and subscribe buttons to get notified every Monday when a new episode comes out. Let's get to it. Welcome back to Multifamily Rock Stars. Now, this is where we interview people that are crushing it in this business, and we show you guys the inside scoop of how multifamily investors are creating massive success in their businesses and in their lives. And as always, we've got our co-host as the director of my massive action team, and for our warrior group, Mark Nagy on the line. Mark, what's up, brother?
Hey, not too much, Rod. Doing phenomenal here. Just super excited to sit here and learn from our amazing guest today.
Yeah, well, listen, let me introduce our amazing guest today, who happens to be one of my favorite people on the planet, and I do not say that lightly. Her name's Mandy McAllister, and I'm going to tell you some stories about Mandy just because I can't wait to do that. But she's a single mom, which just is like so freaking dear to my heart. She's got an adorable little guy. She's got over 200 doors that she's involved in. When did you join my Warrior program? You were like one of the first.
Yeah, about 3 years ago or so.
3 years ago. Yeah. Well, welcome to the show, Mandy McAllister.
Well,
let me tell you my favorite story of Mandy. Okay, so sorry, and then I'm going to have you talk about how you got into this. But so I get a call from this lady, and she says, I want to come visit and say hi. And she'd been listening to the podcast, but she won an award. This is Mandy, of course, won an award in her medical sales company, and she was getting presented the award in Orlando. And she said she was more excited to meet me than to get the award, the top award in her company, which of course, I hated hearing that. And then she brought me this awesome gift of popcorn from Chicago. Anyway, that's my favorite Mandy story, but it's so awesome to have you on the show right now. I can't even tell you.
Thank you. It's so full circle,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I love it. So talk a little bit about your journey. So let's start there.
Sure. So I'd been interested in real estate investing for some time and bought a condo to live in, knowing that I would BRRRR that at some point. The time frame wasn't what I anticipated. But then for the first acquisition for express purpose of investment, I found a fourplex that made a ton of sense, and I was shaking in my boots to do it. And this was back in the day when you used to do these 30-minute calls with listeners. So I booked my little time.
Yeah. I forgot we had one of those calls. That's right.
Yep.
Those free calls. That's funny.
Awesome. I still go to that hospital for work. So every time I'm sitting in that hospital parking lot, I think of that conversation that we had. So, based off of a conversation with somebody who knew what they were doing and had looked at a ton of deals, you told me, yeah, I'll do that deal 7 times today if you'll let me. And that gave me the confidence to move forward. It's actually still one of my very best performing assets in my portfolio. So that was step number one.
Nice. I love it. So, I want to start somewhere because you are an incredible communicator. You're top salesperson in your medical device company. And so what I'd like to do is have you describe how you put a team together and maybe the different functions inside the team. So it'll help people understand the various personality types and skill sets that can come together into this business. Could you elaborate on that? Because I know you'll be able to articulate it well.
Well, thanks. Mm-hmm. So I started kind of doing it all myself, and it does become tremendously easier when you can kind of divide and conquer. Right. So I'll highlight the relationship that I have with my business partner in the 53 unit JV that we just took down. I'm kind of an outgoing communicator, but also love the due diligence. I'm highly analytical. My master's is economics. But my business partner that I, met through the Warrior program is a broker by training out of Chicago. So in terms of the knowing to look for this on a roof or that on electricity, in terms of the nuts and bolts of property, he is that guy in spades. And I'm more the, communication and the spreadsheet type of girl. So we complement each other quite well.
I'm surprised, actually. I did not expect to hear that. I did not realize you had an economics degree, and I assumed you were going to tell me that your partner was more the analytical. But you're both those pieces. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's so, guys. You probably heard us talk about it before on the show. Whatever your superpower is, you can bring it to this business. If it's communication, if it's analytics, if it's process driven, if you've got some framework in real estate in the past, not that you have to have it, but like Mandy's partner was a broker, or maybe property management, maybe finance, maybe insurance, things that tie into real estate, those all apply. Even if you've just got a decent net worth and you want to get into real estate, and you bring that to the table, so there's so many ways that you can get into this business and get started. Even if you think that you can't, you likely can, because it's a team sport. So, Mark, go ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I remember, Mandy, you were telling me earlier, you've done what a lot of people like to do, right? They say that you always want to, try and start out passively investing in syndication. A lot of people want to do that, right? And then you kind of moved into doing some of your own deals, obviously. How'd you end up making that transition, and why did you end up doing that?
Yeah, I'd done like a number of small multis on my own, and I knew I wanted to go bigger. So I wanted to understand what the communication looked like, what the process looked like, what was different in 130 unit versus my 4s and 6s and 8s, right? So I chose to go into a deal passively. And one thing that I think is worth pointing out is I didn't want to mess with my liquidity, but I still wanted to do that learning. So I self-directed an IRA, so that I had dollars that wouldn't, mess with my straight liquidity, that I could only invest in properties if I was self-directing it and putting it into syndications. So, we did that first syndication that was a real home run. Ended up, just through relationships, I met a guy that was on the GP, and went in on it about January of 2018. And then 22 months later, we're full cycle on it. Ended up making 50% of my money in 22 months. So that was a real home run. Wow. And the neat thing there is I get the structure. I get, how syndication makes a ton of sense. And it's really informed, though I've chosen to do joint ventures in my kind of more active roles to date. I have it in my Rolodex of things that I can do in terms of communication that I want to provide my investors. So
nice.
Wow.
Nice.
So how involved were you then in that syndicate? You said you knew one of the general partners. Mm-hmm. What did you learn, or how involved? Was it purely passive, or did he bring you in to learn anything along the way?
Yeah, well, we did a number of calls. We were friends and kind of contemporaries coming up through getting into syndication. And he was very accessible. I had an opportunity to ask any questions that I had, but seeing the cadence of the communication was really quite good. And I know that it was probably an easy one for him because we did so well on it. The business plan was really a no-brainer. So it was probably a very easy one to communicate. I haven't seen the communication of when things are going poorly. But yeah, he was always very accessible.
Nice.
Love it.
Nice.
That's
nice.
awesome.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me interject something on that thought, if you don't mind. If you're out there and you're a limited partner, or you're thinking about being a limited partner in a deal and investing in a deal, ask the operator how accessible they're going to be. Like, for example, we're taking down a deal in Dallas right now that we're raising equity for, and we had probably 12 of our warriors there helping us do the due diligence so they could learn that process. So, we spend a lot of time trying to educate our passive investors. So, ask that question for sure. In fact, on that note, I've got a list of questions. Let me just find it real quick. Yeah. Questions to ask a general partner before you get into syndication. I'll give it to you guys for free. Just text, let's see, GP questions to 41411. I hope that's right. GP questions to 41411. If that's not right, DM me and I'll kind of correct that, but I'm pretty sure that's it. And we'll get you that list of questions, because you've got to ask those questions up front so you don't get into a deal that, with an operator that doesn't know what the heck they're doing. You want to be very careful with your hard-earned money. And there was one other thought I was going to say about that. What the heck was it? I lost it. Anyway, go ahead, Mark.
So from doing that deal, obviously that sounds like a home run. That's awesome. You learned a lot. You made some good money, which is great. How'd you then transition over into, doing the JV deals that you're doing right now? What did you have to shift in your business model?
I was always kind of concurrently looking for active deals to represent and passive deals. It was just kind of at the same time thing, part of my progression. I kissed a lot of frogs in terms of underwriting deals. We looked in Kansas City for darn near 2 years.
How many would you say? How many frogs?
Oh my gosh, probably 100 plus. Wow. I mean, there's zero chance I could have kept track. Mm-hmm. But it's really funny that once you've done enough underwriting of deals, you remember the names of deals. It's like other people, like, do you know this deal? Do you know that? Whatever. So I wanted to find a market that was with a short flight from Chicago, so kind of in my backyard, but that met the metrics for GDP growth and population growth and job growth, right? And for me here in the Midwest, that was Kansas City or Indianapolis. And, we looked in Kansas City for so long and didn't find, kissed all those frogs, and then ended up looking in Indy and found some stuff that made more sense there. So I think that having laser focus, yet knowing when to pivot, is super important.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think is... Well, where are you going to take it from here? Let me ask you that. Are you going to continue to do JVs? Are you considering doing a syndication? Or all bets open? What are your thoughts?
I'm kind of an opportunist. Okay. When things make sense and they're in my wheelhouse, I will do them. We have a primary equity partner who wants to place a large amount of capital in the Indy market, and we're going to do right by him. We know the criteria that he wants, and it's not your normal syndication. We're looking for longer term, high cash flow deals rather than a significant value add play. So it's different from what you would see in a normal syndication. And there's a lot more of those, in my opinion, right now, especially with rates as low as they are on agency loans. So we're kind of chasing that as a first.
More yield plays then. You're not necessarily forced appreciation day one.
Right. Well, and where cap rates are at, the
spread's there.
Well, but I mean, in terms of anyway, that's neither here nor there. But what I like right now is a high cash flow deal, very cash on cash heavy. We're acquiring it with debt that is assumable at a low rate for a very long term, so that we have a lot of potential exits. I like having options right now. So yes, I think do
you have an asset? You have an asset that fits that criteria that you're working on right now, or you just made it sound like you were working a deal?
So we actually submitted an LOI on a 37 unit, also in Indianapolis. And just like everybody tells you, I'm going to reiterate it, that once you close on a deal in a market, you are automatically the pretty girl at the dance, and everybody wants to talk to you about everything, right? So we are getting significant deal flow now because we closed on that 53. So we were, submitted that LOI on the 37. We were the runner up, but we know that the guys ahead of us have already transacted with the seller, and they were hard to work with, I guess. So we're hanging close to the rim on that one, and we're walking another 50 unit on Tuesday next week.
Fantastic. So, let me circle back on something you just said. Forgive me for stopping you.
No worries.
So guys, if you're, one thing that a lot of people don't realize, they think that, you get into a situation which they call best and final, where you give your highest offer, and it's usually 3 or 4 people on the buyer's side that the broker has relationships with, that he's given first shot at this deal. And if you lose the deal, you're not the best and final. That doesn't mean the game's over. I can't tell you how often I've heard from operators and friends and people in my boardroom that keep circling back with that broker, and that original buyer, for whatever reason, can't perform, and they're right back in the saddle again. So that's what she meant when she said that. Hopefully you kept your train of thought. I interrupted you. Sorry. Were you concluded?
No.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
no, we are, constantly underwriting deals that come our way, and we're being flexible. We're knowing exactly what our wheelhouse is, but we're also being flexible. There's a couple of mixed use buildings that have some commercial space that we're feeling out to see if that makes sense. I don't love it right now, but if the deal,
retail's a little scary right now.
It is.
Yeah. But I love that. I love, mixed use like that, where you've got the multifamily above some retail. It's just, to me, that's always such a nice look and feel, and can be very, very lucrative if you can get the right anchor tenant, right retail tenant in there. So let me ask you this, how has the Warrior Group helped you? You've been in for about 3 years. What do you think are some of the biggest benefits you've gotten from being in our group?
I'll tell you, it's number one, relationships. You and I both love Tony Robbins too. And it's the people you meet when you're there are equally as important as the stuff that you learn and figure out. And the buds that I've made through, being part of this, your organization, are going to be my friends and business partners for, a long time to come.
Yeah. Nice.
Love it. So I know you mentioned your target markets there, Indy, Kansas City, obviously. Rod taught me, obviously, you always want to do your own market research when you're picking markets, but a great place to start is looking at successful people and then following a proven wheel, right? So what I want to know is what do you like and dislike about Indianapolis and Kansas City? Why those markets? And what are the downsides?
Both of them meet the criteria that I want to see in terms of job growth, GDP growth, the type of employer diversification. Both of them make sense in that way. That being said, there's lots of people looking for that, and lots of people look in those markets. So, one thing that I think that we've done quite well is we've figured out, in terms of criteria, what do we need to have in terms of this formula? And then what are we willing to maybe bend on a little, so that we're looking down rabbit holes and not everybody else is. And, our choice, because we're looking in cash flow heavy plays to hold for a long time, we're considering smaller assets. The bigger assets are getting bid up still, in our opinion. But we are bending on maybe not going for 100 units. This 53 unit met criteria for agency debt, which got us really where we wanted to go. Maybe not as much scale, but we're getting most of the benefit.
Talk about, just as an aside on that 53 unit, talk about, are you managing yourself or third party?
Third party.
And does that size unit support any on-site staff?
So we went with a group who they own some of their own and in that same area. So they know it really well. And they pull a property manager 2 days a week to sit on site.
Interesting.
So
okay.
Yes and no.
Did you address a potential conflict of interest with their ownership of competitive properties? Yeah.
So they've got it's a pretty strong C- asset, I'll call it. And ours is a pretty strong B+.
Okay.
So, I don't think that,
they're different. Okay. Fair enough. So talk about, take a minute and talk about a seminar. Talk about a mistake,
when I messed
failure.
Up?
Yeah.
Oh, I got plenty of those.
We all do. We all do. You're brave enough. You went right there. No problem. I can do that. Some people. What do you mean a mistake? I've never made a mistake. Come on.
My life is built on mistakes. So I'll tell you. I think many people would echo not getting started quickly enough. The imposter syndrome, lack of confidence stuff, which I think happens to everyone, but is very, in my opinion, much stronger in terms of women. I think my biggest one is, trust but verify. I was friends with someone first who, chose to go in on a deal, actually trusted my instincts enough to know that we needed to do a smaller deal before going into a very, very large one. And, ended up losing some cash in that process. But boy, am I glad I trusted my instincts to do something smaller before biting off a really huge deal. So trust but verify, do a background check on anyone that you're going to be doing a deal with. Even if you think you've asked the pointed, hard questions, do the background search.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So what can I ask, Mandy, what have been some of the most challenging parts of your business? I think you mentioned one there. It sounds like there's a lot of competition in going bigger for more scale, but what have been the most challenging pieces of growing your business lately here?
Bandwidth. So my day job, it's pretty demanding. I'm, full custody single mama. So really figuring out how to have impactful, deep work on any individual given thing. I spent a lot of time kind of toying with time blocking and batching. And I've got a couple of hacks that have really worked for me. Really listing out, these are the calls that I need to make. And then I know at 2 p.m. on Tuesday, I'm going to be working through calls or whatever that is. Really getting intentional about how I'm spending my time is one of the biggest things I work on.
That is, and I'm so impressed with the fact that you use that phrase deep work. In fact, there's a book by that title, which I need to get. I saw it referenced in one of the business magazines because it's so freaking important. With our disjointed focus because of social media and scrolling and texting and everything else, it's very, very hard to do that deep work and stay focused. So that's awesome. And again, this is why I'm so impressed with you and with any single mom that is able to not only you have a massive full-time job. It's a full-time square job. Even you've got a little guy and he's what, 3, 4? How old is he?
4.5.
4.5. And you're crushing it in multifamily real estate. So those of you listening, tell me your freaking excuse. Okay. Let me hear it. Just call me and tell me, and I want to hear it. So I will kick your butt when you do, because you haven't got one. So
true. I talk with people every day that say they don't have kids and they've got regular day jobs and they have a spouse that they could partner with, and they still make excuses on why they can't do it. Right. And it's all in their head.
It's all in their head. So what inspires you, Mandy? Tell me what inspires you.
Impact.
Ooh, good answer. Well, on that note, let me give you a plug. So Mandy and a couple of other warriors, and I think somebody outside the warrior group as well, have created this women's group. What's it called?
Aspiring Women Achieving More.
Aspiring Women Achieving More. Is that freaking awesome? So not only is she doing everything we just described, she's also helping run a women's group to help women do more in their lives. Freaking love it. So impact, which you are having by virtue of that group, obviously. So tell us about an aha moment.
So much of this whole process has been, figuring myself out. The idea of, I've always kind of done things the right way. Like I was an athlete because I was supposed to be a Division I athlete, and I was, right? Like I did a master's degree because I was supposed to do a master's degree. Like I followed all the right scripts. My primary life aha moment is that I get to pick where I put my focus, where I put my effort, and then therefore my outcomes are something that I get to pick. And I'm choosing to figure out this money stuff so that I can then go live the life of my dreams.
I love it. I love it. And I tell the story about that hospice nurse in Australia that counseled hospice patients and asked them a question, which was, do you have any regrets? And the number one, she wrote a book about it called The 5 Regrets of Dying. The number one was regret was living someone else's life, living that life that quote unquote I was expected to live. Yeah. And so, that's awesome that you came to that realization. So what do you think is the best advice you've ever received?
Just do it. I mean, the thing is, end of the day, the learning is awesome. It is. It's important. It's necessary. But until you've started to cut your teeth on things, it's a muscle, you guys. Like, it's just like anything that, you're scared of whatever. The minute you get past it, you realize, oh my God, I didn't die. oh my gosh, Rod, you said I would do that fourplex. And then I did that fourplex. And then I had $1,100 coming in cash flow every single month. That is the opposite of dying. Like that was a tremendous success. If you just, get to the point that you know enough, you've got to at some point, like let go of that branch, because you're gonna fly if you've learned what you know you've learned.
And we get so many analytical people that feel like, they have to check off every freaking box. They have to see the whole road, or, they have to know every person intimately before they can do business, or, they have all of these rationales. And I give the analogy that you can drive all the way across the United States at night, seeing 10 feet, 15, 20 feet in front of you, and you'll make it. You'll know you'll make it. You may not, you don't know the obstacles you're going to encounter, but it's like your goals. It's like anything else. You don't have to see the whole freaking path and check off every box to take action, because action will mitigate the fear that you have, that analysis paralysis. So
I have a quote up on my vision board right here.
I was going to ask you that next. What's your favorite quote? Let's hear it.
Well, I mean, this isn't my favorite quote is, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. But another one I have up on my vision board is that avoidance doesn't extinguish fear, action does.
There you go. It's a very absolutely, it's counterintuitive. The action mitigates the fear, So.
Well, I want to give it another little example on that. So a seminar I did that I know you did too, you have to climb a 50-foot telephone pole. And I am scared of heights.
Oh, you don't just have to climb it. You have to tell the whole story.
You climb it, and then you go from having climbed it to standing. My palms are sweating talking about this. So standing on top. And then you jump off and grab a trapeze bar. So now, just so you guys can picture this, you don't have anything to hold on to when you're trying to stand on top of this thing that's about 8 feet around with your in my case, your 2 size 14 feet, and you have nothing holding you, and you got to stand there, and then you've got to jump and go grab this trapeze. Yes. I'll tell you my big lesson from that. And when I look back at those pictures of having done that, it's what a lesson in when you're scared of something, when you don't know what to do, when you're fearful, just do the next step and you will figure it out.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Love it. What a great example.
Absolutely. So what's next for you, Mandy? You see yourself quitting your job soon, expanding this multifamily business. What's the next goal for you then to take down?
Yeah. So I'm a pretty strategic, pragmatic individual. And the way I think about my investing, it's kind of 2 buckets. I have a very security heavy bucket, and then I have my let's swing for the fences, huge value add growth bucket. Well, I've pragmatically decided that once I hit my dollar value required, I'll have my financial freedom. And I hit that with the acquisition of this 53 unit. So my plan is I love my day job. I love this chance to impact patients' lives in the group I work with. So I'm going to do it as long as it's fun. And we're going to continue building that footprint in Indianapolis and do right by that partner and then work towards syndication.
So just so I want to make sure I heard you correctly and everyone on the show here heard you correctly. That one deal made you financially independent.
It put me over the top. My goals were cash flow focused rather than number of doors.
Good, as they should be.
So, and I actually made a calculator on this, like a spreadsheet, which I'd be happy to share if you're interested.
Okay, all right.
That kind of helps you figure out what level you need to reach different levels of financial freedom.
Is this what you shared with the Warrior Group?
It is, yeah.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, let's make sure you send that to me, and I'll throw it in the show notes for this particular episode. Okay, wonderful.
Well, what I'm hearing there is how many years have you been doing this?
So soup to nuts, that fourplex I bought 4 years ago.
There you go.
4 years. Most people work 40 years and they don't reach financial freedom. And because of multifamily and real estate, you were able to technically do it in 4 years. I mean, if that doesn't get you inspired to get out there and do this business and make the next jump, I don't know what will.
Yeah. And on that note, guys, if you're interested in our Warrior program, text the word crush to 41411 and we'll have you, we'll see, you'll see if we're a fit for you and we'll see if you're a fit for us. We'll have a little application process, but I promise you get on that call and you'll be a better person after you get off the call than when you got on it, whether we work together or not. Also, I've got a couple more questions for you, Mandy, because I just want to know what you think. And one of the questions I have for you is, what is your favorite part of this business? What do you love about the multifamily business?
I love that in anything in my life, when I can take focus outside of myself and make it about making someone else's life better, then everything in my life in turn becomes better. And by definition, making a better place for someone to live is how I've increased cash flow, which has put me in a position to have financial freedom, So I'm impacting and receiving at the same time.
Remember, guys, she said her word was impact. So she's impacting and receiving, and anything you give, you get back tenfold. And I'm going to tell you guys, in my Warrior program, when I ask someone on our initial call or the second or third call, their why, and if I hear contribution in any way, shape, or form, I know success is inevitable, because power, God, whatever you believe, God, the universe, whatever you believe, power moves to those that serve. And so that speaks to it. Love it. So I want to ask you the question that I ask regularly on the other episodes, which is, if you could go back and tell your 20-year-old self, I know you're only 21, but if you could go back and tell your 20-year-old self what you might do differently, what might that be?
Interesting that you say that, because I've had some calls with friends, siblings that are roughly that age. And the one thing that I tell them, it's all kind of surrounding, I wish I would have gotten started earlier, but my gosh, had I bought a fourplex and lived in one and house hacked and moved out, the world would look completely different at this point had I started that way.
Yeah. And guys, if you're young and it may in or out or in or not in a relationship, and mama's okay with not having the white picket fence, and you're okay with getting into a fourplex, or Papa. Okay, sorry. That was sexist as hell, wasn't it? I'm gonna get so much shit for that. Anyway, you're right. If you don't need the picket fence, male or female, then for God's sakes, house hack and do a fourplex, because you can get into it for a song and a dance down, 30-year fixed financing, some as low as 3% down. If you're a vet, nothing down. And it's such an incredible way to start. What haven't we asked you that we should have asked you, Mandy? Any roadblocks? Were there any roadblocks that you had to overcome that, maybe we helped you overcome, or you had to figure out on your own? Anything come to mind with that question?
I'll tell you, I think the one thing in my life that keeps coming up whenever I see that a success has happened, it's that I have this sometimes completely unfounded belief, but I have this belief that I can figure it out, and I'm going to find the right people to put in my life, the right resources to put in my life to figure out whatever that thing is. And, if you can prove it to yourself a time or two, that confidence is going to continue to grow that you can figure it out. There's a really great book called Everything is Figure Outable that I found a couple months ago. That was fantastic. You guys, I am 0% special. I promise you. I am a farm kid from a small town, but I just refuse to believe that I can't figure it out, because I can figure it out.
Well, I disagree with the fact that you're not special, because you are definitely special. And I totally agree with your comment about being able to figure it out. Anything you put your total focus and energy to is going to flourish. And if it doesn't, then take a look in the mirror and say, am I really giving it everything? Because I promise you, you're not. Thank you so much for being on the show, Mandy. Such a treat to see you and have a little time with you, and just to go full circle in this relationship and have you on the show is just so freaking awesome. So
I'm so grateful. Thank you for having me.
Yep.
Yeah. Great having you, Mandy.
All right. So one other quick thing. We encounter so many people that are frankly frustrated. They're looking in the mirror and they're frustrated that they haven't been able to escape the rat race. They haven't been able to build cash flow to the point where they're able to have financial and time freedom with their families. And maybe they see other people buying real estate and creating, incredible cash flow, and they think, well, it's just scary. Buying apartments is intimidating. And I get it. See, that's why we created our Warrior Mentorship Program. They're our coaching students, and they've had extraordinary results. My students, I've been teaching about 5 years, and they own upwards of 140,000 units now that we know of, right? And we feel like it's just getting going. Now, we're looking to grow this group and really take it to the next level. And honestly believe that the greatest transfer of wealth could be upon us right now with this current economic environment. Everything's going on sale. So we're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework, really like a blueprint or a map, literally step by step. And then they're able to leverage our systems and our incredible network to raise money and equity, to find deals and close those deals and build partnerships, really nationwide. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more in our incredible network and take advantage of the unbelievable opportunities that are upon us, you can apply to my Warrior Mentorship Program by texting the word CRUSH to 72345, or you can go to mentorwithrod.com. And what we'll do is we'll set up a call so you can check us out and we can check you out and see if it's a fit. Now, again, you can go to mentorwithrod.com or text the word CRUSH to 72345 to apply, and we will speak soon.